Welcome, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Jeremy Thornton. Many of you we've visited before, we've seen each other before, and some of you are new. I see some new faces, and I like to see those new faces. So I love to hop on here on Wednesdays, call it Wednesdays Lunch with Dr. Jeremy, right? Or Lunch with Dr. J, and just share about this technology. It's kind of more laid back. We're not in a hurry. We try to touch on everything a little bit more in depth on the science. And we have a little Q&A at the end. And so this technology is something special. A lot of times this comes across as a fat loss supplement, but I'm going to share with you today that that's not true. Now we like that part. We like that aspect, right? The fat loss for sure. But it's so far beyond that it's not even funny. So we're going to talk about some of those benefits. We have and I don't have my bottle here. I was going to show you my drops. We have the TriGLP drops that's underneath the tongue, and we have the IGNYT powder that you just shake up, and it's yummy berry, cotton candy, raspberry lemonade. Who knows what flavor you might think it is, but it's yummy. So the when we talk about GLPs, right, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of misunderstanding out there. Every time I ask somebody what GLP-1 is, they think it's a shot, right? And we get that. They think it's an injection. GLP-1 is a natural, normal hormone peptide, right? That's produced in your body, in your gut, that has far-reaching impacts and a lot of important benefits. So a GLP-1 in a shot is called a GLP-1 agonist that mimics the natural GLP-1 that your body makes, right? Does that make sense? And so we have, when we talk about TriGLP and we talk about IGNYT, tri meaning three, is because this supports three pathways, three GLP pathways, which is mind-blowing in and of itself that it supports three pathways. By far, the biggest selling drug ever is a GLP-1 support, right? As GLP-1 mimicker called semaglutide, right? Or a brand name Ozempic is the biggest weight management drug on the planet, but only drives one pathway, and it drives it very aggressively. And then there's very significant side effects that can happen from the shots. Now, I'm not against the shots. GLP-1 was designed for diabetes, and I think it has a role. But is it the best choice for most people for fat loss? And I would argue that it's not a good first choice. That what we have our hands on here is a safe, natural, affordable option that I think should be explored before we go into injecting synthetics into our body. That just seems to make sense to me, but maybe I'm just weird. But so the GLP-1 pathway, again, made by the body, regulates hunger in the brain, right? It helps to control hunger and appetite, the food noise, the food cravings. It improves satiety. It improves insulin resistance in the body. I'm blown away at how significant this impacts blood sugar, fasting insulin, insulin resistance, diabetes, all of these things, because it helps the body respond more favorably and become more sensitive to the insulin message, promotes sustainable weight loss. So GLP-2 is the second out of the three GLP pathways that this supports. GLP-2 is the gut repair and absorption pathway. It helps repair and strengthen that intestinal lining, that intestinal barrier. It helps reduce gut and systemic inflammation, enhances nutrient absorption. This is one thing this is powerful is we see people absorbing nutrients better and that are already in their food or their supplementation. They start to absorb it better because their gut gets healthier. It supports a healthy gut microbiome. It promotes digestive wellness and, of course, supports the immune system. Immune system is largely in our gut. So if we're supporting gut health and a healthier gut, we're going to have a healthier immune system as well. I've seen people that with these drops are having less food sensitivities. And that's really shocking. I was not expecting that with this supplement. And it makes sense though, but if that's healing the gut lining and we're healing that leaky gut situation, that those foods would not be getting through there when they're not supposed to, right? So that's the GLP-1, the GLP-2, the GIP pathway is a third of the tri and tri-GLP is the nutrient and energy pathway. It has also very many important aspects to it. We'll touch on just a few of those. It improves nutrient utilization by the body, helps the body to realize I don't need to store everything that's crossing my lips, right? I can utilize some of this food for fuel and energy instead. And so I can flip that metabolic switch to do that more efficiently instead of everything getting trapped in storage mode, which is what insulin loves to do. High insulin loves, I call it the storage hormone or the hibernation hormone. So a higher insulin with insulin resistance, which over 70% of Americans are, when we have that increased insulin, it just wants to store away everything, for the winter, except spring never comes and is still storing it away. And we can't get rid of this fat, right? Because of the high insulin. So people get frustrated with insulin resistance because they start to eat better. They're moving their body. They're doing all the right things and they cannot lose any weight. Well, why is that? Well, it's because the high insulin is holding on to everything and won't let go of it. We have a powerful tool here to start to shift this in a way that allows your body to start letting go and quit storing everything. And that's one of several reasons of why this impacts fat loss so well. This creates the GIP pathway, helps to create smooth energy throughout the day without the peaks and valleys of blood sugar and the crashes in the afternoon. Supports sustained energy, mental clarity, muscle preservation, especially during fat loss. One of the things about the GLP-1 that scares me the most, and there's lots of potential side effects of the GLP-1 medications, the GLP-1 agonist, the Ozempics, is the muscle loss, right? And I get to see this firsthand with patients that are on this medication in up to 39-40% of the weight loss can be muscle. And so let's say they dropped 50 pounds, 20 pounds of that could have been lean muscle tissue. And that's shocking and scary, right? To be down 20 pounds of the most metabolically important tissue in your body is gone. And so you may have dropped 50 pounds and maybe even feel pretty good about that. But are you metabolically healthier with 20 pounds less muscle? We're not, right? We're worse off than when we started. And what I see oftentimes is eventually people want to come off the shots, which would be, I would want to come off the shots. But unfortunately, the practitioners aren't giving them great tools to help them be successful on this journey, right? They're not sharing with them dietary ideas. They're not sharing with them prioritizing protein. They're not sharing with them that they need to work out to maintain their lean muscle tissue. So they come off the shots. They've been suppressing this GLP-1 natural hormone for months now, right? And what happens when we replace a hormone? The body decides it doesn't need to make it anymore, right? If it's already in there, we don't need to make it. And so we shut down these pathways. Now we don't have the shot anymore. And guess, of course, what's going to happen? And we have less muscle tissue. So, of course, we are going to rapidly put weight back on. That's the typical situation. So let's say we put that 50 pounds back on. Did we put the 20 pounds muscle back on? No, we didn't, did we? So now we've got 20 pounds of additional fats that we didn't have. Now we got 50 pounds of fat on us. And that is alarming, right? Anybody would be alarmed to put 50 pounds back on. But the thought process is I need to go back on those shots, right? That helped me lose that 50 pounds. So they go back on the shot, let's say. They drop another 50 pounds. They dropped another potentially up to 20 pounds of muscle. So now we could be theoretically down 40 pounds of lean muscle tissue. Now we're in a crisis. We're in a health crisis at this point because the health implications of dropping that much lean muscle and its impacts on health, that person's metabolism may never, ever recover, right? I mean, this is serious harm that's been done to the body that they may never recover from. Those GLP pathways, will they ever return to normal function? The GLP-1, we don't know. We don't have studies on that. Will they be able to recover that 40 pounds in this scenario, that 40 pounds of muscle? Will they regain that? It's going to be a difficult road, won't it? Will they be able to keep the weight off? Highly doubt that they'll be successful with weight loss at that point, right? With their most important metabolic tissue severely damaged at that point. So this isn't about doom and gloom and hating on injections, right? That's not my point here. My point is that we have a better way, we have a safer way, and I feel like it's mine and maybe your uh, job to let people know, right, that there's safer versions out there. There is help in this area that doesn't come with the price tag of the side effects and health implications. And all we talked about was muscle, and there's much more than that. So I'll get off that tangent. Um, but we're supporting with this technology three very important pathways. One more thing I'll bring up. Um, Eli Lilly is currently spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a three pathway injectable drug that's due out maybe next year called retatrutide. And so the two pathway drug that's already out is called tirzepatide and or Zepbound. I can't remember. Is it Wegovy? Is that the other name? I can never remember all the names. Um, but and it's a two pathway, two GLP pathway drug, right? We already have a three pathway natural, effective, affordable supplement. So this three pathway drug that's currently in studies right now, not due out till maybe next year, um, retatrutide is, and they've already got 55 billion with a B set aside for manufacturing of this drug when it is finally approved, with a price tag of $1,200 to $1,800 a month. That's what's coming. That's what's on its way this next year. What's super exciting is we have a three pathway natural supplement that nobody else has that's here now that you don't have to get a prescription for. You don't have to sell a child to afford it, right? Or get a loan, to take out your 401k to be able to afford to stay on these shots. And then many people end up getting stuck right on the shots, and now you're in trouble because you can't afford it, forever. So anyway, that's the three pathway injectable that is on the horizon. Benefits here, we have what I like to say pharma results without the side effects. Up to 7% BMI reduction in 6 weeks, 10% body fat decrease in studies with zero muscle loss. So I think we have to highlight that on the slide. Zero muscle loss. There was not 5%, not 10, not 20, certainly not 40%. 100% fat targeted. So we talked about the blood sugar improvements. We see improved fasting insulin, improved A1C, lower triglycerides, improved lipids, improved inflammatory markers, improved energy and less inflammation, and improved digestion. And those are just a few of the metabolic, type of clinical results. But there's so much more research, and I won't. I'll try to just touch on these and not spend a lot of time because nobody wants to spend their whole lunch or evening, hearing about science and studies. But I broke this down into individual slides, some of the key areas of research, and they're broad, so far outside of just fat loss. And that's why I want to touch on this, because people really need to know that this is much more than that. So one of the exciting things is the impact on inflammation. I was not expecting that with this supplement, right? And probably many weren't expecting the degree of reduction in inflammation that this can produce. And studies are showing, and I can vouch for that because I see it on my own lab work, improved, lowered inflammation markers, especially in those inflammatory signals like C-reactive protein, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, interleukin 8, interleukin 5. But one of the things that's most exciting, and what we don't often talk about is the role of oxidative stress in disease, the role of oxidative stress in aging, and all of this, this toxic world we live in. All of these things are our stress, our poor sleep, our poor diet, and then pile on the toxins on top of that, all bombard our cells, and cause damage to the cell lining and damage to the mitochondria, even damage to the DNA in our bodies from this constant oxidative stress. And so this technology in studies has shown to upregulate 16 protective genes in the role of oxidative stress, like heme oxygenase 1 and FTH1. It also downregulates 9 oxidative stress genes. That's just crazy that this is shifting gene expression in the realm of oxidative stress. So it's not just an anti-inflammatory, certainly not just an antioxidant, but we're actually changing gene expression itself towards anti-aging, towards protection, towards healthier cells, right? And so if we can impact inflammation and oxidative stress we can impact about any health condition you can even think of, right? Which are all driven by root cause of inflammation and oxidative damage, oxidative stress. So I always like to touch on this. I think it's a huge benefit that's not well known about this technology. We talked about gut health, but one of the studies on iron absorption is mind blowing. They took iron deficient individuals, did a study, 6 week study with this technology, and they increased their stored form of iron in their body by 140% in 6 weeks with a 14% increase in hemoglobin. Um, that's wild because there's no iron in here, right? So how do they increase iron by 140%? Because they're absorbing it, right? They're now absorbing nutrition better, including iron. If we have healthier iron levels, of course, that's going to cause healthier energy production, improved oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, improved cognitive performance, athletic performance, just improved life in general, right? If we have healthier red blood cells. And so I thought that was an awesome study. We have studies on muscle preservation, which again is the key to slowing down and having healthy aging, especially, right? We should all be concerned about maintaining muscle. And two proteins that work against us in that muscle preservation effort is called myostatin and activin A. These are usually associated with muscle decline and inhibiting new muscle growth. Another awesome, amazing aspect of this technology is that it highly suppresses these two proteins. Um, and at the same time, it upregulates and increases uptake of amino acids in the body. They call it rapid amino acidemia. I like to say that because it makes me sound smart. But so you just say amino acid and then put emia on the end, emia meaning blood, right? And so you should say that to your friends that this causes rapid amino acidemia, right? So it increases amino acid uptake, including leucine, which is going to tell your body it's time to make new muscle. So by suppressing these two proteins, we're taking our foot off the brake of new muscle formation. And by the uptake of amino acids and leucine in the bloodstream, we're putting our foot on the accelerator to creating new muscle growth. And that is super exciting. So I always tell people that are taking this for fat loss to make sure they're not just using the scale as their sole means of whether this is successful or not. Because one, scales are a big fat liar, right? I always tell people to take their scale and give it to the person they don't like because it doesn't tell you really anything, important about the current metabolic situation going on in your body, right? And so, especially with a technology like this, people are losing fat and people are gaining muscle, right? And so, what's the scale say? Yeah, you ain't done jack squat, and now you're disappointed and you want to throw in the towel, right? Because it's not working for you. Well, that's not so fast, right? So if you're not if you don't have one of those fancy scales, cool. There's a lot of cool technologies out there, but at least measure. If you're using this for fat loss, at least measure because you're going to see things happen that maybe don't show up initially on the scale. So that's my soapbox on scales and fat loss. So let's see here. Hair, skin, and nail health. This is exciting. Again, an area that's just unexpected is how the impact on soft tissue, on hair, on skin, nail health. Um, all right. Shirley, make sure you don't get my face in the picture. I don't want to scare anybody with a slide picture. I'm just teasing. This one is, the studies are showing up to 34.5% of women experienced and reported positive changes in their hair, skin, and nails. One of the reasons, well, there's probably multiple reasons, right? That the skin and hair and nail would be healthier. Improved nutrient absorption would be one thing, of course. Less inflammation in the body. But this also contains both type 1 and 3 collagen in the salmon peptides, right? And everybody's talking about collagen. You need to take a collagen supplement. Well, this is a collagen supplement. You could look at it that way and promote skin hydration and elasticity. So many great things. And so I always challenge people to really, depending on what lens you're looking at this product through, it could look like a weight loss or a fat loss supplement. It could look like an athletic performance supplement, right? With the muscle tissue and the repair. We hear people all the time talking about how fast they're recovering after exercise. This could look like a great gut health supplement. And indeed it is, with especially the GLP-2 support and the gut healing and the reduced inflammation and improved nutrient absorption. But this also could look like an anti-aging longevity powerhouse, and it is that as well. Um, why is this different? Well, one, we have real science, right? We're not just making claims. It's not about hype. We have over 10 years of studies and current studies continuing to come out, 50 million plus invested in research of this technology and more continuing, patented bioavailable technology. I think we're up to 10 published studies now, 13 FDA claims, which is mind-blowing. The FDA does not generally allow nutritional supplements to make medical claims. And we have 13 allowable by the FDA function claims with this technology, which is crazy. And the only reason that would ever happen or be allowed is if we actually had real science showing that this had benefits, right? And ask any other nutritional supplement out there, hey, how many FDA claims do you have allowable? And you'll hear crickets, right? Because there's none. And you ask them about the science of their product, of the medical or the claims that they make of this product can do this and help this and fix this and cure this, and ask them where the science is. And again, oftentimes there's no studies, right? There's no research, and it really makes me feel good that we have solid science behind this technology. It's not just about hype. It's about real science and real results. Pharmaceutical grade manufacturing standards, no medical gatekeepers, right? You can just order this. You don't have to get a prescription. You don't have to have a provider prescribe it. And the cool thing about the different FDA structure and function claims is there's hardly any of that related to metabolic health. It's all of the other benefits that this has that are talked about in the structure and function claims. We also have 4 Health Canada claims, which again, my Canadian friends are blown away with because again, Health Canada does not like to allow medical claims on nutritional supplements. But we have that, and that makes me feel very confident in this product, that we're not just making claims or saying that it works. We know that it works. It's not like the jury's already in, and this stuff works. We're beyond organic. The certifications that we have are just next level purity. We have 4 simple ingredients in the drops. The amazing bioactive peptide from Norwegian salmon, organic lemon peel, organic ginger root, and water. That's all that's in the drops. 4 simple ingredients in the powder. Again, the bioactive peptides, beetroot for color, beetroot powder for color, stevia and natural crayon apple flavoring is all that we have in the IGNYT. This is the perfect time for a natural breakthrough. One, because we desperately need it, not only in America, but around the world. Metabolic crisis abounds. Health crisis in the areas of obesity and blood sugar dysregulation. Here in America, 72% of adults are overweight or obese. 1 in 3 have diabetes, 1 in 8 have diabetes, with over 70% having some type of metabolic dysfunction, generally insulin resistance, but most don't know it. Well, why don't they know it? Well, their doctors, if they're getting checked up in their blood work, is not running the blood work that would generally show this, right? If you're interested in checking yourself out, always ask for a fasting insulin. Not just a glucose, not just an A1C. Those are great tests. But sometimes the first thing that will show up with insulin resistance is not an increase in blood sugar. That comes much later, years later, sometimes even decades later before the blood sugar starts to creep up. But what will happen first? The cells in the body start to become resistant to the insulin, kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Your cells are like, whoopee, big deal, more insulin, right? And so the pancreas cranks out more and more and more and more insulin, thinking it just needs to yell louder. So that fasting insulin will be one of the first things that starts to rise when they're starting to become problems. And usually triglycerides as well will start to increase. And we know we're developing problems already. Now, that may not show up in the A1C for 10, 15, 20 years later. But we could find signs of this already happening. And again, over 70%, whether they know it or not, are insulin resistant. And that drives all the big killers, the heart disease, the cancer, the neurodegenerative disease. I always point out that they're calling Alzheimer's now type 3 diabetes. And why do they do that? Well, a big component of Alzheimer's is insulin resistance in the brain. If the brain can't get glucose for fuel, it causes cell death. And so this is a big deal. And to have something powerful like this that is simple, that's affordable, that's within reach of folks, that's natural, that doesn't have a laundry list of side effects, is just super exciting. And we just have to get the word out there. More people need to know about this. But excuse me, not only is it a perfect time because of our health crisis, but people are looking, they're searching, they want help in this department. With over 10%, I just saw a statistic that was actually 1 in 8 Americans are on a GLP already. And 35%, I believe that's even more than that, estimated to be currently looking into the GLP space for answers and help, but some are hesitant to pursue those injectable options, right? Just in the US, 5 million internet searches a month in the area of GLP, 20 to 30 million internet searches worldwide per month on, again, GLPs. So in America, we have over 100 million consumers that are searching for help. They're searching into the GLP space, and they're really what they're looking for is what we have. I bet you if you asked all those people if they're looking, if they're searching for a shot, if they're wanting a shot daily or weekly, they probably are not. That's probably not their first choice, right? And we have a better choice. We have a better alternative. But look at the market size. 130 to 140 billion spent on GLP drug market size in just last year, with expected to be 240 to 260 billion by early 2030s. That's crazy amount of money compared to every other drug on the market. And here in the US, one of the biggest prescription drugs is Lipitor, which is a cholesterol lowering drug. And the market size for Lipitor is 13 million. And we're talking 130 to 140, no, sorry, 13 billion. We're talking 130 to 140 billion with the GLP market size. So the world is ready. They're waiting for a safe, natural option. They're waiting for what we have on here, our hands on here, which is our IGNYT and our TriGLP. So I'm going to wrap this up soon. I'm going to show you just a quick lab on a patient of mine. I was excited to get this blood work back earlier this month. You can see the fasting glucose. This patient was 47-year-old diabetic. Fasting glucose levels improvement in 6 months. The only change here was adding in our technology, right? The drops. Actually, we didn't have the IGNYT yet. Hemoglobin was in the diabetic range. Anything above a 6.5 would be classified as diabetes. They were at a 7, now down to a 5.6, which is technically normal, right? 5.7 is where pre-diabetes classification starts. And so this would be technically a normal blood sugar, although I would say it's still a little bit too high and needs to get better yet. Look at the fasting insulin, dropped from a 22 to an 11. Needless to say, this person also lost a substantial amount of weight in this 6 months. The inflammatory markers at the bottom are exciting to see. High sensitivity C-reactive protein is a good marker to know. Anything above a 3.0 is high risk for cardiovascular disease. And they were at a 4. Now down to a 1.7. Less than 1 is considered optimum. And so the inflammatory markers improved too. So I love to see things like that. I love to hear improvements, right? We love the testimonials, but I just love to see the data, right? And so that gets me excited to be able to see that. And so I'm going to wrap it up now. We will have time for questions, but I appreciate you guys for spending time with me today. Take care. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless.